Picking the best PC parts for your next gaming PC can be one of the most difficult parts of the entire build process. And it's a decision that you crucially need to get right to ensure you achieve value for money and those all-important frame rates in your favourite titles. And every week I get hundreds of messages from you guys asking for help with your parts lists. So for the first time ever, I'm going to be rating your guys' builds, giving you advice on how you can improve them, and showing all of you watching today mistakes to avoid when selecting components for your next system. Let's do this. The Cooler Master Tempest GP27U gaming monitor is a stunning quantum dot mini LED monitor that boasts a huge 576 local dimming zones. The crisp, high-resolution 4K panel provides stacks of detail and is backed up by a competitive 160Hz refresh rate. With a 1 millisecond response time, 27-inch form factor, and HDMI 2.1 support to run the latest consoles and up to 4K 120Hz, it really does tick a lot of boxes. You can learn more about the GP27U at the first link in the description below. A little while back, I put a post out on the community section of the YouTube channel and said to everyone, you know what, submit your parts lists and I'm going to give them feedback. I got so many parts lists that YouTube thought they were all spam links and blocked all the comments, but I've fixed it now and here we go. Let's take a look. So Georgia Klein 7088 sent their parts list over and here it is. So let's take a look. So looking at the total, this is obviously a $1,000 build, so a pretty common budget for those of you looking to get great value for money. An initial look on the parts is actually really solid. First thing I always check with the build is the CPU and GPU. The Ryzen 5 7600X is a great processor. 6 cores, 12 threads, boosts well over 5 GHz, meaning you get awesome single and multi-threaded performance. The 7600X is overclockable, but the use of a B650 motherboard here, this Gigabyte one, doesn't allow for overclocking. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, as you still get the faster clock speeds, but with obviously a cheaper motherboard and build config. The motherboard is on the basic side, but we've still got 4 RAM DIMMs, good work. Looks like we've still got front panel USB-C as well. The I/O is the only thing that lets this board down, really. A little bit limited. We've only got 2 of the sort of regular USB 3.1 Gen 1 ports, USB-C and USB-A in the 10 gigabit format, so that's good to see. But it is quite simple on the I/O, and there is no Wi-Fi. So obviously, if you're going to build a system like this, you need to make sure that you've got Wi-Fi connectivity if your build needs it. CPU cooler, they probably could have got away with the stock cooler, but this Arctic Freezer Esports Duo is an awesome bet. The Duo one gives you an extra fan for more airflow. Probably not strictly necessary if you wanted to save $10. The single fan one will be totally fine, but if there isn't much in it, not a bad shout. Memory's great, 32 gigs. 5200 megahertz is slow for DDR5, but a cache latency of 40 is pretty good. Top tip, AMD Ryzen builds, you want to go for a cache latency of 40 or below. You'll spend more money on the memory, but a high cache latency kind of invalidates the point of having fast memory in the first place. M.2 drive is a fairly good choice, but I think more could be done here to actually, they might have paid less for this drive than this, but let me just show you, for example, on Newegg right now, the drive that this person's gone for is a fairly good Gen 4 NVMe drive, but you can get something like a Samsung 980 Pro, for example. Hopefully the 2TB one is still on offer. Okay, that's gone up a little bit. The 980 Pro 2TB was on offer for $100 the other week, so keep your eyes out for deals like that. Something like the WD Black SN850. Yeah, here you go. Look, WD Black SN850, a smidge over $100, but that's for a 2TB drive, and it's faster, and it's the upgraded SN850X. So the only real criticism I think I could probably give. PSU looks good, a bit overkill for the 6700 XT, but the graphics card in this is the real highlight. That is an awesome choice. XFX 6700 XT, 12 gigs of VRAM, perfect for playing games at more than 1080p, so 1440p for years to come. Solid. But I'm going to rate all the builds today. I'm going to give this one a solid 8.5 out of 10. If you're looking to build a $1,000 PC, I'll link all these parts down below. This is a really great shout. So that's the $1,000 builds. What if you want to spend a bit more money? Let's show some love to the people splashing the cash. $2,500 build. Let's take a look at what this person has got. So are we in budget is the first question. Yes, we are. We've got about $30 to play with, so that's looking good. First things first, CPU choice. A solid start, really. i7 13700KF. Now, I'm going to get the elephant out of the room straight away. If this is just for gaming, look at the Ryzen 7 7800X3D. If it isn't, and you want the extra cores, 13700KF is an awesome shout. I love Intel's 13th gen lineup. AMD have pulled ahead recently in the last few weeks, especially on pricing competitiveness, but it's not a bad CPU, and anyone who tells you it is talking rubbish. Cooler, I also like the white colour scheme, good, but I really think you should step up to a 360mm. A great example of how you can get a good value cooler would be the Deepcool 720 range. They have the LT, the LS, the L something, different prices, but you could get a 360mm rad for another $20. Motherboard I like, MPG Z790 Edge Wi-Fi, LJ1700, some overclocking. It's mainly white, but has a black PCB, no complaints there. Memory-wise, looking good, CL36, 6000 megahertz, 32 gigs and $100. Awesome choice, really, really good stuff. NVMe drive, also pretty good, SN850, fast Gen 4 drive, 1 terabyte, like that. Only thing I'd say, you're only going to pay $59 for this. Just get the 2 terabyte version for $100 or so. The reason I say that is because, and I'm talking a lot about storage today, games nowadays, like COD's like 100 gigabytes, Cyberpunk's like 100 gigabytes, F123 is like 100 gigabytes. You're going to fill that so quickly, so unless you've already got like an old 4 terabyte Gen 3 NVMe that you're going to use as a game drive, pop that up a bit, spend the $40 now. Yes, you can add more storage later, but one drive's always better than 2, less slots, less bandwidth, and gives you more upgrades down the line. Case I like, Gunyear 110R from MSI is a really nice white case. It's not the best for airflow, it's not the best for like really, really premium build quality, but it's not bad, and I like it. Double check the GPU clearance in there. The Founders I'm pretty sure will fit because it's one of the smaller 4080s. And PSU wise, I have never heard of that make of power supply, and it says no price available, but it's 80 plus gold, and I'm sure it's probably okay. The GPU though is where I have a bit of a gripe. I'm going to preface this by saying, if you want an NVIDIA card and you're really bothered about DLSS 3 and ray tracing, buy the 4080. It's not bad. 16 gigs of memory, awesome 1440p and especially 4K performance. But if you're in the market to save yourself some money, look at the 7900 XTX. I'm not sure whether aesthetically it's going to look as good as the 4080. I can see the build color scheme you've gone for, and I really like it. But the 7900 XTX in our testing gives you more performance. And if I just nip straight onto Newegg, I'll leave all these links down below as usual, and look for the 7900 XTX. What can we get for sub $1,200? Quite a lot. I mean, holy moly, I've never seen a GPU that looks quite like that. I might have to buy one. Look at that. White cards. Okay, here we go. This one's quite nice. This arguably fits your color scheme better as well, but just check clearances and stuff because it might be a bit big for the Gunyear 110R. That is a much better looking GPU for your build color scheme. It's not going to save you that much money, but in our testing, you get more performance, worse ray tracing, but better straight rasterization, and 8 gigabytes more video memory. That's like gluing an RTX 4060 onto your 4080, combining the memory, and you're off to the races. But not a bad build. Just look at the CPU, especially if you want to go gaming applications only and not video editing. X3D will treat you better. Have a look at the case, make sure your clearances are okay. And if I were you, swap the card out for a 7900 XTX. I'm going to give that one an 8 out of 10. Next up, we have a build at a $1,600 budget. So the reason I'm looking at this one, $1,600 is a bit of a weird amount of money to spend. However, I have been told that this build is worth the money. My question is it worth it, or should it change some things? Well, that, my friend, Mr. Black Wolf Roman, is what I'm going to try and help you with today. You've come to the right place. So let's have a look. So, straight away, some bits of this build are really good. Some bits really aren't. Oh, I don't want to be mean, because this is not a bad build. There's some really good parts in here, but I just think you've gone wrong in a few places. So let's have a look at it. 13600K off the bat is a really peculiar choice. Unless you want the extra cores without spending loads of money on an i7, it makes sense. I mean, if nothing else, you could get the 13600KF, save yourself $20. But for gaming only applications, when you tally this up against AMD's alternatives at the price, it's just not value for money. CPU cooler is good, AK620 Dark. I think you can probably get something of that caliber for slightly less, but not a terrible choice by any means. The motherboard, on the other hand, I really, really like. Obviously, if you do go AMD, you're gonna have to change the motherboard out, but this Gigabyte board's really nice. You've got great I/O. We've reviewed the Z790 Aorus Elite, been very impressed with it in all of our testing, so I absolutely approve of that choice. Storage also looks good. Our Samsung 980 Pro, where is it? There it is, 2 terabyte. How much is that? $120. Yeah, really, really solid. Amazing storage, pretty future-proofed, good. RAM's a bit of a weird choice, 64 gigs. I'm guessing this person's doing productivity applications, which is why they've got the 14 Core i5. But I honestly think if you're only doing gaming, 32 gigs is going to be fine. You've got 4 slots on the board too, so you can just add another 32 gigs, as I say, if you're doing for gaming. Case is good. PSU's pretty good. I'd probably go higher than 750 for a build like this. 850 maybe, although the 4070 is a very efficient GPU, so no major issues there. But the GPU is perhaps where I have my reservations. $600 or so for this 4070, 12 gigs of video memory. You may want to go NVIDIA, but let's have a look at what the options are for this price point. One of my favorite places to go for GPU pricing is just gpu.com. I really, really like the way that it works. And what we can do is scroll down and go, yeah, how much money have I got to spend? We want a card between, let's say, $500 $550 and $650. So let's, no, I've broken it now. 550, 660. What can we get? So this is it. This is why I wanted to pull it up. So for the same price, you can get a 6950 XT. More video memory, better rasterization performance. I know I sound like the biggest AMD fanboy today, but really consider what your options are on the AMD side of the equation. Yes, there's less choice of coolers. Yes, you've got quite a lot more power consumption. So just think about PSU wattage, but definitely consider the 6950 XT. Overall, I'm gonna give this build a 7. Not too bad. If I had a bit more info about what it was for, I'd be able to give a more accurate rating, but for now, 6.5, 7. Pretty good, but I think you have spent a lot of money considering the spec available. Okay, so I've just had a look at a build from Skiz8864, and this might be one of the most insane value 4090 builds I've ever seen. This is mad. Right, okay, so let's just attack this bit by bit. So 7800X3D, I'm like, yeah, that's a good CPU. AK620 CPU cooler, fine. I mean, liquid cooler would really be better if you can afford it, but you'll see what he's done in a minute. 32 gigs of memory, CL32, DDR5, 5600, yeah, good. The case is, it's not my favorite thing ever, but it's all right. PSU's fine. NVMe drive is like the cheapest Gen 4 NVMe I've ever seen. Is this thing any good? Let's see. I've never heard of this drive. Let's have a look at the speeds, shall we? Pop that into Google. 1 terabyte. It's not really enough unless you're playing like a couple of games. Speed. Let's have a look at the speed, shall we? 5,000 megabytes a second. Not bad. I would personally go a bit higher on the Gen 4 drive. But what is most impressive is the fact that he's managed to fit a 4090 in this build. A 3-fan PMY 4090 is a bit more bland than some of the other options, but holy moly, my friend. This has got to be the best $2,500 build I've ever seen for raw gaming performance. Is it particularly well future-proofed? Probably not, but I'm just impressed. I think the motherboard's a bit on the low end. If I'm going to knock any part of the build, you've basically just gone, do you want GPU power and nothing else? Yes, I do. So for effort, I'm going to give you a 10. For overall build, I'm going to give you like a 7. If you just want a game and you're not really bothered about anything else and you want 4K max settings, then yes. Otherwise, proceed with a bit of caution. I should just preface, all prices on here are subject to change. Obviously, this is PCPartPicker's pricing info, not my own. So I'll link latest info down below, but prices do change, so bear that in mind. Let's do one more. Let's find a good one to wrap us up for today. And obviously, if you want to get your builds rated by me with a bit of feedback that's hopefully constructive, pop the link to your build in the comments below, and we're going to try and make this a regular monthly series. So let's have a look. Okay, so a build from Peter Kaiser, $1,300 US. Let's see where we are. First thing, these potential parts may have compatibilities. What are the details? Okay, no, you're fine. So let's have a look. So Ryzen 7 5700X again making an appearance on a B550 motherboard. So you are going cheap on the motherboard and CPU, but it's not too bad. Cooler's also pretty good. NVMe drive looks okay for the money. That's cropping up again. Montec Air, it says no prices available. You can get that for about $45. It's not a bad small form factor build. I can see you've tried to do something a bit smaller. The motherboard is undoubtedly a weak point. I can't really sugarcoat that. You've got USB-C on the front panel, no USB-C on the rear panel. Does the case have USB-C? Because if the case has got USB-C, you're at least going to have some connectivity, but if it doesn't, you're not going to have any. USB, yeah, you've got a 3.2 Type A port, but there's no Type C, so not everyone's going to be that bothered by USB Type C. If you're just using your build for gaming, I understand, but with a Ryzen 7 CPU, you can achieve very similar levels of gaming performance with a Ryzen 7600X, which is also going to cost you, well, less, $6 less at $199. Motherboards for $150, you can get an ASRock B650 board with more features, more up-to-date, 4 RAM DIMMs, Wi-Fi, USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C and Type A. Whoa, hey, that was quick. DDR5 RAM, you can get a kit for $70, which leaves you $30 for the cooler if you can try and pull some money out. Graphics card again, the 4070, it's not a bad card. Out of the NVIDIA range, it's one of the better GPUs, but look at the AMD lineup, especially if you're worried about VRAM. So not a bad build. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. There are definitely some changes to make. I think that Ryzen 7 5700X isn't necessarily the best way to go. Not a bad build though for that $1,200 budget. I'm really impressed with the parts list I've looked at today, and it shows just how amazing value you can actually build a gaming PC for right now. When the 4070 first landed, I'm thinking this is ridiculous, and people are managing to squeeze it well into $1,200 builds. As I say, if you guys want me to look at your build next, be prepared for it to have a bit of a roasting. Link it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, let me know. We'd love some feedback on some of these new kind of video concepts we're working on. Thanks for watching though, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.